Hello and welcome to my studio. It's Lois here from Lois and Morgana Davidson Art, and today I'm going to be showing you how I centre the light in this woodland stream painting. But first, a quick plug for my book, Landscapes in Watercolour, Techniques and Tutorials for the Complete Beginner. It's available to purchase from all good bookstores. I'll leave a couple of links in the description below if you think you might be interested. Plenty of tutorials and lots of advice and information. So today I'm starting off by just flicking water and spraying a bit of water onto my page. Then I'm going to work that water with some light value paint into the paper. My board is flat today, it's not at a tilt, and I'm using Saunders Waterford cold press watercolour paper. And this is lemon yellow and sap green and perylene green. You can see I'm dancing the brush around with plenty of water on the brush as well, so introducing more water to the page and trying to keep a stronger amount of yellow in the middle of the page, increasing the green hues and the values around the outside. So I'm starting off using this wet in wet technique to create a background. I'm avoiding the area where I'm going to put the water, as you can see. I kept the paint away from that, and now I'm tipping and tilting the board, allowing the paint to flow, leaving a few sort of areas of unpainted paper as and where they occur. Gradually building up, adding a little bit more tone, some earthy hues of green by touching a bit of burnt sienna into my green mixes. Swapping between my 1.5 inch Princeton Aqua Elite modeler brush and this size 14 round brush. I can use a 3/4 inch flat brush or any brush that I choose, just to sort of change up the marks or do slightly different jobs like softening edges, that sort of thing. So this underpainting is to give me a feeling of the glow of sunlight filtering down through the thick, heavy canopies of this little forest glade. As I'm sure you can tell, I've sped this film up a little bit, just because it's quite a long process. Now I've wet the stream area with horizontal brush strokes and I'm introducing some cobalt blue, but you might have noticed that some of the colour from the riverbanks or stream banks got dragged in as well, and that helps. Those soft edges help to give us a nice transition between the riverbanks and the water. Keeping the brushstrokes horizontal will of course keep the water looking flat and contrast nicely with the more random brushstrokes that are used to create the riverbanks and the trees. A fan brush gives some lovely texture, dipping in, adding a few darks here and there with richer paint so that the paint isn't softening and diffusing quite as much. It's sort of staying where I put it. You can see the marks. So this is beginning to give me the shape of the suggestion of some closer trees. If I've got any extra water pooling on my page, a little bit too much, I can use a piece of absorbent paper towel or tissue just to wick out some of that water. Now I'm going to flick some of this lovely lemon yellow or spatter it with the fan brush into the damp wash, and this gives me some really lovely texture and a few little sort of blooms and blossoms. This adds to the effects of this sunny glade. And of course, all the while that I'm painting, the washes are beginning to dry. So I'm taking this opportunity and my size 2 rigger brush just to pull a few branches through the gaps that have been left between the washes, and then to bring in some stronger paint and to start to establish some of the trees. You can see, because the washes are still damp in places, that those tree trunks and branches are beginning to soften and diffuse. But I can keep working into those areas as they dry and gradually strengthen up these tree trunks and branches. You can see where the fine brush strokes are being made across the drier parts of the wash. You can see the fine lines which show up really beautifully against the unpainted patches which look like dappled sunlight. So I'm going to keep working into these trees in this same way, slowly and gradually building up a really subtle, pretty, and I hope ethereal effect. The dark branches leaning across that centered light, and so that contrast will really make the light appear much brighter. Using my fingernail to scrape through that damp paint to create a few lighter tree trunks in the distance, and now introducing some Payne's Grey, which has got this lovely blue-grey dark tone to it, and using the flat brush, and I'm bringing in the shadows of my riverbanks and some rocks sticking out of the water. And the flat brush is a really useful brush for creating these kinds of shapes, allowing the paint to run off so it's not quite so dark into the distance, gives me some aerial perspective, and also keeps that glow of light in the distance as the sunlight is filtering through the young leaves of the trees. I'm using my size 5 palette knife now, just the tip, to gently scrape through the damp, rich paint, and this gives me some paler marks. It also adds a little bit of depth and dimension to the trees by pulling these paler branches forward and pushing the darker ones back. Just a few marks here and there, I'm not going to overdo it. And then just bringing in some stronger fine branches painted with my rigger brush. I'm going to remove the tape. This helps me to see whether or not I've painted enough branches. I think I need a few more in order to contrast, create a lovely contrast against the light in the background and to link the trees on either side. So I'll have a look at it with a clean border. This helps me to see it with fresh eyes. And now I've seen it in a new light, then I can just finish the painting off with a few more branches and a few more little finishing touches where I think it might need them. And here's the finished painting. And I hope you enjoyed watching how I created that and centred the light in the middle of the painting by keeping some unpainted white areas, but mostly by keeping it very, very yellow in the middle and building up my green with strong tonal values to frame that light around the outside. And then starting to paint my trees in wet, so that I've got some beautiful softly diffused edges, as well as some harder, crisper branches that contrast well with the light. If you found that helpful, then please give the video a thumbs up. That really does help us out. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, then we'd love you to join our art community here. It's free to do, and it really does help with our reach. And thank you so much to everybody that supports us on Patreon. We really do appreciate you and couldn't run this free to view YouTube channel without you. I'll see you again soon. Take care and happy painting. Bye.